This starting quarterback thing is something that if you did this Family Feud style and you polled 100 people on the streets of Cleveland, you could potentially get 100 different answers on what the Cleveland Browns should do with their starting quarterback.
Yeah, so you were very strong in the camp of they should start Joe Flacco this week against the Packers. And I was very much on the other side. I went on a rant on Tuesday to start off my show saying you might as well just go to Dillon Gabriel, and I was all in. And I still am very much so. If you would have started Dillon Gabriel in this game, I would be happier than starting Joe Flacco. Why are you in the camp of keeping Joe there?
I'm in the camp of keeping Joe Flacco as the team's starting quarterback for at least today, because I just think it's too early to hand everything over to Dillon Gabriel. I haven't seen enough out of the rest of the offense. Like, leave the quarterback position aside, and it's tough to do when you're evaluating a game, but like the receivers haven't been great. Guys haven't been getting open. Obviously, they've had to lean on the big-bodied tight ends to make contested catches because the wide receivers just seemingly aren't getting separation, maybe outside of Jerry Jeudy, who said this week to watch the tape if you didn't believe that he was getting open against the Baltimore Ravens. The run game has been pretty bad outside of one big Quinshon Judkins run in the fourth quarter against Baltimore. And I get the counter argument is that in limited action against Baltimore, Dillon Gabriel looked good. He certainly looked better than Joe Flacco. Moved the ball 3 for 3, awesome touchdown pass and a layered throw to Dylan Sampson there, left side of the end zone. But I just have to roll with Joe Flacco today for one more week at least, because I want to start to work towards normalcy. And then once we get normalcy, again, it doesn't even have to look good. If we could just get to normal offensive line play, normal run game, normal receivers, then okay, I feel comfortable putting a rookie QB in the game and seeing what he can give me. I just fear if you put Dillon Gabriel in the game now and you take that toothpaste out of the tube, it turns into one of those situations where, okay, well, if he plays bad, do you go back to Flacco in Detroit? Could you go back to Joe across the pond in London? Like, it just opens a big can of worms, and I'm not ready to open that can quite yet until I see the offense get a little bit more normal.
So I can look at that and say fair. I also think it's more for me, though. Like, it's not even based on how Joe played, because I'll be honest, I don't think Joe played, obviously, he did not play well against the Ravens in week 2, but I don't think it was as horrendous just straight up on Joe as people maybe made it out to be. Like, the offensive line was bad, the run game was bad, like, yes. But the thing is, for me, Joe's not starting because we want to see what Joe has, and Joe has to keep the job. Joe starts because the Browns want to win football games. As soon as I see that the Browns are not going to be a competitive team, not going to be winning football games, I'm out on watching more Joe Flacco football. I saw in week 2 a team that is not going to get to a competitive state after the first 6 weeks of the year, right? Like, I'm not expecting the Browns to come away from week 6 being like, we're 3-3. We got a real shot coming into this thing. I don't know that the Browns should be expecting that either. Right. Obviously, they're going to play for it, and they're going to let it play out. But what I saw in week 2 told me that probably was not going to happen. The offense was not going to get to a spot where they looked so much better that I'm going to feel great about this team competing. And that signals to me, go get the rookie quarterback, right? Let me go see what I have in the other guys, because if I'm not winning football games, there's no use for Joe.
Well, is this a bigger conversation? Is this a systemic conversation? Because the Browns spent a lot of time telling everybody all offseason long that we're better than a 3-win football team. What we did last year is not who we are. And it's like, through 2 weeks, you guys look like a pretty bad football team. You guys look like a 3-win football team. And I think they believed what they were preaching, and they believed that they were going to be better than what they were last year. And they decided to go into win football game mode. And they decided to get 2 vet QBs. One being Joe Flacco, who had a magic carpet ride here in 2023, and the other being Kenny Pickett, who hasn't had a ton of success in the National Football League, but they felt comfortable with Stefanski or whatever, paired with the 2 rookies. Like, they told you when they named Joe Flacco the starting quarterback, they thought they were going to win. So maybe is this another case where they miscalculated things, where they had maybe misunderstood where they stood as an organization as they stacked up in the rest of the league? Potentially. I mean, I don't think through 2 weeks they look any better than the 3-win team they were last year. I hate saying that because I wanted to believe them. I wanted to believe that they could be. But, the age-old adage is Vegas rarely wrong. They set that line at 5.5 for a reason. I think the Browns would be lucky to get 6 wins at this point. And ultimately, the decision to start Joe Flacco today for me is just kind of like a meat shield thing, unfortunately. Like, I know it's going to be Micah Parsons. I know that secondary's for real. And it's like, I just can't do that to Dillon Gabriel.
It feels like that's what this is turning into. I had used the phrase that Joe Flacco is basically the human punching bag right now for every other team that the Browns have to play. I'm also looking at it, and I questioned very heavily, as a lot of people did, what the hell are they doing going and getting Kenny Pickett, right?
Didn't make sense.
No, didn't make any sense in my eyes.
To think, like, to add to the systemic layers of how all of this has gone wrong, and again, we're only 2 weeks in, Kenny Pickett was getting the king's ransom of snaps with the ones this off. It wasn't Joe Flacco. It was Pickett that commanded a lot of the significant reps for this team this offseason. So what was the point of that if you were ultimately going to flip him for the same fifth-round pick that you gave up to get him?
Well, this is what I look at, though, and I didn't understand it for so long going and getting Kenny. Watching this offense play for 2 weeks, I understand Kenny Pickett. I understand the move to go get him, and it's part of why I call for Dillon Gabriel this week. Joe's playing in an offense that Joe can't succeed in, right? The lack of a run game has not helped, but I'm watching Joe Flacco try to run bootlegs against the Baltimore Ravens. Roquan Smith is flying off the other side of the line. Joe Flacco can't beat Roquan Smith. Not many guys can. Not that Dillon Gabriel can, not that Kenny Pickett can, but you roll out, you move the pocket, you got a hell of a lot better of a chance of getting that ball out if you're either of those two guys than you are of Joe. This feels like an offense that was built on a quarterback that you don't have to move, right? Baker Mayfield ran this offense. Baker Mayfield is not a guy that, as we heard over the weekend, or when did they play? Yeah, Monday. As we heard on Monday, it was, all right, well, Baker's not that athletic of a guy, but he just, like, that's the adage of Baker. You go and look at him, and it's like, okay, I'm not impressed with what I'm seeing athletically, but he's doing something. Like, it's the same way for Dillon. It's kind of the same way for Kenny. Joe can't do that in this offense. Like, you can say, you're basically a meat shield if you're Joe Flacco, and I'm scared what would happen if I played Dillon Gabriel. I'm kind of scared of what happens when I play Joe Flacco today. He's 40 years old, and he's going to be getting rushed by Rashawn Gary and Micah Parsons and Quay Walker. He doesn't stand a chance if his offensive line doesn't, go from Swiss cheese to a brick wall.
Well, what I agree with you on is the fact that this certainly looks like a Dillon Gabriel offense. It doesn't look like a Joe Flacco offense. A Joe Flacco offense, like, guys, for a second, think back to 2023 and what made that so fun. It was that it finally looked modern. They were taking big shots down the field. The play action game was working. Mari Cooper looked like a top 3 receiver in the league. They finally unlocked David Njoku, who was able to get open in the middle of the field and create things with his legs. This looks a lot more like the game manager, safe. Everything is very safe. We're going to play for completions. We're going to try to move the sticks. Safe football that Kevin Stefanski's been after, and they're not letting Joe uncork it. They're depending on him to just be a game manager. That's not who he is. Like, we've had that conversation over the last 2 weeks here on the pregame shows, is like, you can't really put training wheels on an 18-year veteran who has a reputation of wanting to sling the rock. And I do agree with you as well. As I worry about the offensive line today. I worry about Joe Flacco today, and that we really could be a snap away from seeing Dillon Gabriel at any point.
Like, I always said I need to see Joe basically play himself out of the starting spot. They're not letting him do that right now. The offense is playing Joe out of a starting spot. And the entire reason I would not be starting Joe is because I don't think the offense fits what he does. I don't think they can win football games. It's not necessarily on him. I sit here and, okay, I get it's hard to take shots when your offensive line isn't blocking well. I get it's hard to take shots in this offense when your run game isn't, being complementary to your pass game. I still got to let Joe uncork it at some point. Again, 216-474-0092. I don't know. I would be going Dillon Gabriel in this game if I was the Browns. They're going to start Joe, but I think that we're talking about a leash that is ever shrinking for a 40-year-old veteran. I was watching Joe. Joe looked like a 40-year-old quarterback.
He does. He does. There's no denying that. I do want to, like, I feel like it's just a gut feeling. I feel like we're going to see Dillon Gabriel sooner than later. Whether it's today, whether it's next week in Detroit, maybe it's London. I feel like Dillon Gabriel is peering around that corner. I just can't shake it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I originally predicted that we see a rookie quarterback by week 7. I think that timeline is crunching very quickly. Like, I don't know how. The one thing we can agree with, you would start Joe this week, I would start Dillon. The one thing we agree with is that a leash that once felt like it's almost a guaranteed 6 games, no longer feels like it's a guaranteed 6.
Why do you think that because of the turnovers and stuff, and because it's looked as bad as it's looked?
I think part of it, and I think what bothered me so much in watching this was, and why I was calling for Dillon Gabriel during the game, right? Like, which, by the way, was crazy to me. I was sitting there just firing off tweets, and I go and look after the game had ended. I'm like, oh, a lot of people called for Dillon Gabriel. I wasn't the only one. A lot of people were just like, I've seen enough of Joe. But it's not that I didn't expect Joe to look bad at some point. I watched Joe Flacco play football. I've watched him sling the rock down the field, turn balls over where you just go and you go, what? Where was he looking? How did he see anything other than the safety sitting in the middle of the field? That's not the Joe I'm getting. I am watching an offense that can't move. I know what bad looked like with Joe Flacco, or at least I thought I did, which is the turnovers will kill you, but you're going to get an entertainment value. I'm not getting that, and I think it's looked bad even when you've tried to play it safe. That's really what bothers me. 216-474-0092. Did the leash with Joe Flacco shorten beyond just 6 games? Is it down to 4? Nick had an interesting question as well. I want to talk a little bit about the defense. Somehow, some way, I might be asking them to do more and feel that it's fair. Did the leash with Joe Flacco get a lot shorter after last week? Again, I think that's something we agree on. Like, I mean, Nick, does it feel like there's a legitimate chance that following this game, like week 4 could actually be Dillon Gabriel?
I wonder if after the game, like, dude, yeah. Because couldn't you see a world where it's just another comedy of errors today and the offense is just a mess, and after the game, Stefanski gives the non-committal answer to Joe Flacco, and that's the headline going into tomorrow, and Ken Carman and Anthony Lima are debating tomorrow, well, did Kevin commit? What did that one sentence mean? You know, and then ultimately later in the week, maybe we get another week of Joe, maybe we do get Dillon Gabriel. I really do think today could potentially be it, which is crazy to say because I agree with you. Coming into this thing, I thought Flacco really had through London at least. And even then, I was like, well, there's no way you turn the keys over to a rookie in Pittsburgh, a place where this team hasn't won in 20-some years. I thought Flacco was safe until the Dolphins game, the middle of October. I'm singing a completely different tune here this morning, Jake. I just because it's looked as bad as it has, and it looks so inept. The fact that you're 0-2, if you go 0-3, I mean, you know what this season is, and that's kind of what I believe this season always was. And then Dillon Gabriel's the next guy up, and then from there we'll be playing how long is Dillon Gabriel going to go before you see Shedeur Sanders? So stay tuned in a couple weeks because I'm sure we're going to be doing that conversation by November 1.
Yeah, I almost wonder. I just don't feel like the Browns would be the team to make the move that quick, though, as much as I think they should. And I would agree with it. Again, like we just talked about it. I would have made the move to Dillon Gabriel this week. They feel like the team to me that is going to stretch this out. They feel like the team that, hey, even though everyone can tell you're just getting kicked while you're down week after week, and if you started off the season 0-6, that they would still have Joe playing all 6 of those games just to it almost feels like try to prove a point, not to the fans or anything, but they think they're going to be competitive. They want to try to prove, no, we can figure this out. We can be competitive. We can win games, even though I think there's a legitimate chance. We talked about the offense. Looks like it's built for Dillon Gabriel. Might actually give you a better chance to win games.
I really think the schedule plays a piece in this too, because if the Browns are going to drag this thing out, like say it looks really bad today and right after the game, Stefanski's like, yep, Joe's our quarterback. I think that's because he knows that it's Detroit. And of course, they won't publicly admit that. They'll tell you any game in the National Football League's difficult. If these guys are on the roster for a reason, if they have to play, we believe that they could help us win regardless of opponent. That's all fine and great. But you can't deny the fact that in the middle of the year, the schedule does soften. We said that when the schedule came out. It's played to be true. The Miami Dolphins don't look very good. The New England Patriots are maybe improving, but still not what they're going to be in their end form with Mike Vrabel. The Vegas Raiders, there are winnable games on this schedule, and it softens in the middle. And I think we'd be lying to ourselves if we said that the Browns aren't factoring that in, because I just don't believe that they feel kosher putting a 3rd-round pick out on the field this week against Parsons, next week against Hutchinson. Dan Campbell's going to be looking to bite his kneecaps off. I just don't know that that's the responsible thing to do, because they love Dillon Gabriel. They love him so much, and they know that, a couple good Aiden Hutchinson hits on Dillon Gabriel, we could be seeing Shedeur Sanders across the pond, and I know they don't want that.
Yeah, I don't understand treating the quarterback with kid gloves at some point. Like, yeah, I mean, Aiden Hutchinson's great. Michael Parsons is great. Rashawn Gary, you could go down the line of guys that you play. You're eventually going to play TJ Watt in the Steelers defense and Highsmith and everybody else.
Yep.
Like, okay, I can look at almost every single week and somebody has a star pass rusher. Somebody has somebody that's going to hit you hard. Like, I can't just go out there and be like, well, we got to wait until the schedule softens up to get to Dillon. Why? Why do I have to wait till the schedule softens? Like, my outcome for Dillon Gabriel this year is you are franchise quarterback or you are at best backup quarterback, right? Because I'm going to draft one in the first round. Yep. If I don't find my franchise guy, if I have a franchise guy, he's got to go out there and play the Packers. He doesn't have to go out there and beat the Packers. He's going to have to play teams like the Packers. He's going to have to play in a division with the Ravens, with the Bengals, with the Steelers. You're playing good defenses. You cannot avoid it. It's not something you can just pass off to the side and act like it doesn't exist. I can't just sit here and wait for him to play. Oh, well, don't worry. You just have to play the Dolphins defense, and then you'll get to play the Jets, who actually are pretty good, but like the pass rush isn't that great. Don't worry, Dylan. We'll ease you into this thing. It's like, welcome to the National Football League. There is no ease in.
So what's that tell you, man? What's that tell you? I mean, get those mock drafts up. Get those mock drafts ready. Browns fans, your Saturday has turned into Sunday. You need to be scouring each and every one of these college football games and hoping that one of these dudes separates themselves from the pack. Like, I know Lenora Sellers had some moments yesterday. Fernando at Indiana. That could be a play. I mean, he looks like Kirk Cousins, like not just physically, like his face looks like Kirk Cousins. And I could see the Browns falling in love with somebody like that. Like, this all to me, and I hate to, like, this is a pregame show. We're supposed to be breaking down the game today, but it's hard to do. It's hard to ignore the bigger view here. Is that they don't have their guy. They don't have anybody. If they don't feel confident enough in Dillon Gabriel, who they say how much they love and how much they believe in his processing abilities like a computer out there. Well, if you can't put your computer out on the field against the Green Bay Packers, against the Detroit Lions, then your computer is like it's like a Chromebook. You're going to be turning it in a couple of months, and you're going to be getting a new one because the one that you had is going to run dry. Is what I think is going to happen ultimately with Dillon Gabriel. They don't have a quarterback. It's becoming abundantly apparent that even though they're saying that they love Dillon Gabriel, like, if we don't see Dillon Gabriel until week 6 or week 7, I mean, that's not enough time to prove that in 10 games that you could be a franchise quarterback for a team that has 2 first-round picks, and QBs are going to be in demand. Like, Steelers need one, Jets are going to need one, Saints need one. Like, even though it's not the most thought of class, teams are going to be drafting dudes, and the Browns better be in that conversation because you used your mulligan in 2025.
Yeah, I just don't know that. I think they like Dillon. I think this is more of a thing of trying to get him into the perfect situation to look at it and say, okay, well, we want Dillon to look good, right? Like, we want to prove.
They want to be right.
Yeah. We want to show you there's that computer on the field, right? Yeah, there's the computer processing power. There it is, carving up the Dolphins defense. And then when he gets to a good defense, they're like, well, you've seen what he can do. So even if he plays bad today, not everybody overreacts. Like, I think that's more of it, which I don't know. It feels like an odd situation. Let's leave the conversation on quarterbacks there because I want to get to a defensive point here. I'm making the statement. I made it this week. I continue to make it today. The defense has been absolutely incredible, right? They're number one when it comes to yards allowed. They've been top tier and giving up some points, but the offense certainly didn't help them last week. I still need them to do more. Like, I don't know that it's fair of me to ask them to do more. I'm looking at the defense and saying, the offense is so bad, I need you to create a turnover, and you're not playing well enough until you do.
Dude, I mean, nail on the head. I have no debate to that. Like, it does feel unfair because this defense has been awesome. So to look at those guys and to be like, hey, we need more, when they could easily point to the offense and be like, well, how can we do more when they're doing this? I'm sorry, that's the path for the Cleveland Browns to eventually win a game. Whether it's going to be today, whether it's going to be next week in Detroit, whether it's going to be across the pond in London, whether it's going to be in Pittsburgh, whether it's going to be when they come back home mid-October against Miami. their path is to not turn the football over on offense and to play really good defense. Today, they've played really good defense, but they've lost the turnover battle. They're 0-2 in hilarious fashion in the turnover battle. And if they ever want to get a win this season, and I do think they'll win a game at some point, they do just need more out of that defense. And it's wild to say because they're the best in the league.
But it's ridiculous. I mean, this is a defense that had 4 interceptions all of last season. Yeah. It's a defense that through 2 games, not to say there was an opportunity to, but has not forced 1 turnover. They have not recovered a fumble. They certainly have not had an interception to this point. It's like, I look at defenses and I'm like, okay, that's great. We talk about playing complementary football. You hear Kevin Stefanski say it left and right. Okay, yeah, part of complementary football is the offense doing their job, setting you up with a long field so that the defense has to give up 80 yards if they're going to give up a touchdown. Okay, as much as you ask the offense to help out the defense on field position, I'm asking the defense to help out the offense on field position, right? Like they'll give up their fair share of yards. I mean, again, they're first in the league right now. I don't have gripes with the defense yardage wise, but it's like the offense needs the help. They need a short field. You haven't forced one. It's a punt every single time. The same way that I can applaud you in saying, all right, well, they have to go 80 yards on your defense every single time. It's like our offense feels like they have to go 80 yards every time because sure, the defense creates a 3 and out or, they give up a first down and then get the team off the field. And then it's a punt. You're flipping the field. It's never a turnover. You never work on a short field on offense.
It wasn't like ha-ha funny, but it was a little bit funny, and obviously like not laughing at an injury. But when Corey Bojorquez had the punt blocked and he got hurt, and then the offense, goes 3 and out that next possession, and he limps onto the field to punt the ball away, like that's the lasting image that's carved into my memory from the first 2 weeks of Browns football is like, this has all been so bad, but Corey, you're our only hope. Flip the field so the defense can go out there and ball out because you, my friend, are our only hope. And it's like my lasting memory of this season so far.